important. And what we see again is some of the global institutions like INSEAF, the International University of Islamic Finance in Malaysia. There's a university dedicated for Islamic finance in Malaysia.
Okay.
That university actually has some online programs, and they are actually kind of rigorous programs, which people, a lot of people from Nigeria who cannot even fly out of the country, they can actually pay to go through the whole program, and they get certified.
Okay.
So most of those, and we do have the AOFI one, the Accounting and Auditing Organization of Islamic Financial Institutions, based in Bahrain. They have the certificate program on Sharia and Islamic banking, and a lot of Nigerians are being certified, and with that, they can actually work in banks as auditors. So we have a lot this kind of momentum, multidimensional momentum, when it comes to the curriculum in universities here within the country, and some of the programs that people can attend, online, from here, and they are globally recognized. So, in fact, I know of some Nigerians who actually went through such programs and they just got jobs at Islamic Development Bank in Jeddah. Yeah, now they were working in banks here. They went through those programs online and they got jobs. So that tells you that there's that kind of global network when it comes to the Islamic finance or Islamic banking and finance sector.
Okay.
We are honored to have with us right here in the studio Dr. Umar A. Oseni, the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC Arbitration Center. Dr. Oseni has a wealth of experience in Islamic finance, having served as the Chief Executive Officer of the International Islamic Liquidity Management Corporation, IILM, and as an Executive Director, Legal and Compliance at IILM. His expertise extends to governance and ethics, as he serves on the Governance and Ethics Board of the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions, AAOIFI, as well as the Financial Regulatory Advisory Council of Experts, the FRACE of the Central Bank of Nigeria. In addition to his industry experience, Dr. Oseni is a respected academic and has taught at the International Islamic University, Malaysia. His involvement with Harvard University as a visiting fellow at the Islamic Legal Studies program is a testament to his esteemed role in the global discourse on Islamic law. With a remarkable body of over 100 publications, including co-authoring leading textbooks such as Introduction to Islamic Banking and Finance, Principles and Practice, Dr. Oseni continues to shape the future of Islamic finance education. A certified negotiator and dispute resolution expert, Dr. Oseni has advised various United Nations agencies, the Islamic Development Bank, and other major international organizations. His work continues to influence the intersection of law, finance, and ethical governance in Islamic context. Dr. Oseni holds an LLB in Common Law and Sharia, a Master's of Comparative Laws with distinction, and a PhD from the International Islamic University, Malaysia. He also completed his postdoctoral fellowship at Harvard Law School, specializing in dispute management. So please join us to welcome Dr. Umar A. Oseni to the program today. So how are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a lot, to hear, someone introducing you, saying a lot about what you've done in the past. I was just like remembering, what happened in each of those, aspects of my career and educational background there. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here on Qalam Radio.
Yeah, okay. So welcome to Qalam Radio, our distinguished listeners from all over the world, wherever you are listening from, whether you are in North America, South America, Europe, South Asia, Africa, and Middle East, and all that. You're welcome again to Qalam Radio, where we bring you distinct and distinguished broadcasting, digital broadcasting, all the way from Afema land in Edo State, Nigeria. So, as said, we have a special guest here, a son of the soil, Dr. Umar Oseni. His CV has already been read to us. So welcome to Qalam Radio, and tell us a bit about, well, we read about the CV, but tell us a bit about what this Islamic finance is all about, because it's an area that we can say you're an expert in. So tell us about this Islamic finance thing.
Thank you very much, for having me on your program today. And when we talk about Islamic finance, generally we are talking about a faith-based financial model which is structured in a way and manner that complies with the core principles of Islamic law. Now, when we talk about core principles of Islamic law, we're talking about the main sources of Islam itself. Of course, people know that the main source of Islam is the Quran, which is regarded as the word of God, word of Allah. And after the Quran, you have what they call the Sunnah, which is the traditions of the Prophet. So, so this is everything that embodies whatever we call Islamic law. So these are the primary sources. Now there are secondary sources I'm not going to be discussing today, but these are the core sources of Islamic law. So any financial model that is structured to comply with the principles in these core sources is regarded as Islamic finance. So that's why we call it a faith-based, because it's based on Islamic law. Now, when it comes to Islamic finance, we also talk about the way and manner things are structured. I always give examples, when you have a fried chicken or grilled chicken, which is so nice to eat, a whole chicken is grilled and you bring it out. It's so nice, delicious. You put it on the table. Then you get another grilled chicken, which is also as nice as the first one. You also put it on the table. Now, you come into the room to choose from the two. Again, they look alike. But the question here is, which of the two are you going to choose from? Now, the first thing is, okay, how was this particular one slaughtered and how was the other one slaughtered? Now, there are two chickens on the table, but you cannot actually go with one of them. You can only eat the other one. So this is actually what it means. You can have two similar things, but the way and manner one of them was structured actually differentiates it from the others. And that's why when you have the two chickens on the table, one of them was slaughtered properly, the other one was kind of stunned, and the blood didn't flow out. And of course, it has its own problems. So even though it looks so nice, Islam says don't eat that. Now, when it comes to Islamic finance as well, when you structure products as well, we actually have similar products. You can have a product for buying a car from a conventional bank. You have another product for buying a car from an Islamic bank itself. They look similar. The profit or the interest rate looks similar. But people say, it's the same. Why do you have to kind of, bring all this Islamic stuff here? No, they are not the same. And in fact, one thing I always tell people when I speak anywhere in the world, I get this question that, Islamic finance seems to be mimicking conventional finance. I said, no, it's wrong. And I'll tell you why, my dear audience. Why it's wrong is this. Islamic finance is not mimicking conventional finance. They look similar, and if you look at the verse that prohibits interest or riba in the Quran itself, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mentioned this clearly in that same verse, that people will say, interest is like, trade, there's no difference, and we're seeing that today. So that's why it's our responsibility to clarify this. You can have two similar things, but the way and manner they were structured, I think that's what differentiates them from the other. So it's extremely important to know that when it comes to Islamic finance is just another way of financing anything you need. When we talk Islamic finance, is not for Muslims alone. When you talk about financing roads, there are no roads that are meant for Muslims. So it's just an alternative. In the financial world, we always talk about diversifying your financial sources, not putting all your eggs in one basket. You need to explore different sources. And this is why countries like Luxembourg, the UK, that are even the secular countries, are already embracing Islamic finance because they see it as an alternative source of funding for them. So this is what we should embrace. And in Nigeria, I'm happy to say that most of our roads are being constructed through Sukuk, the Islamic bond. So the roads are not meant for Muslims alone. So Islamic finance is something universal and it's for everybody. It doesn't mean, in fact, some of the principles you have in Islamic finance are also there in the Catholic kind of tradition. You know, you find them in the Bible itself. So that's why we call it faith-based. And there is a kind of convergence at some point when it comes to the Abrahamic kind of religions, the Judaism, the Christianity, and Islam itself. You know, talk about economic principles. There's that kind of convergence. You know, we can actually go on and on to identify some of these areas. You know, usury itself is prohibited. I mean, in Judaism itself, even in Christianity and the Bible itself, you know, we do have relevant verses on this. Yes. So when you have these verses in Islam, Allah says, "La takulu riba adhafan mudafan," do not take riba, riba interest, and you keep multiplying it. That is being multiplied, basically. So this is something prohibited in Islam. Why? Because Islamic finance, the hallmark of it is that people should actually work for their money. When you want to make money, you should actually invest it properly. Not that you just sit down and lend money and people come to pay you. Yes. And that which will widen the gulf between the rich and the poor. Yes. But people have to work for their money. So when you have money, it has to be connected to the real economy. That's the hallmark of Islamic finance. The last point I would like to make in answering this question is this. When you look at the sukuk, I mean, this is a simple way to understand how Islamic finance works. The federal government raises money. They call it sukuk, Islamic bonds, to construct roads. And you see the roads themselves. That's what Islamic finance tells you. You see what you are actually raising the money for. Unlike the conventional bonds where people raise money from the market,
they don't know what
they use it for. And they use it for, to fix their budget deficit. And only God knows sometimes where the money goes.
Yes.
And we're even discussing something at the moment that relates to this, when it comes to sukuk, issuing an international sukuk, for the government here. And it has to be tied to a particular asset. We have to identify the asset itself, not just for budget deficit. So this is the hallmark of it. And even whether you're a Muslim or not Muslim, I'm sure you'll love this, that yes, I want to see if they raise this money, I want to see what they're using the money for. This is what Islamic finance tells you. It connects perfectly with the real economy.
Okay. So you mentioned sukuk now, and you talked about several projects that this has been tied to. I know if you drive from Auchi here to Abuja, or you're even going south towards Benin and all that, you will see the sign that says this part of the road is financed through sukuk, which ties to what you have said now about how these particular loans are tied to tangible things that you can see, which is the hallmark of the sukuk. So how far is the Nigerian government, is the Nigerian government embracing sukuk funding because it's an Islamic control, or it is just a facility that is, that is good for them to take, to finance this project?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting question to say, to look at why is the federal government embracing sukuk. First and foremost, I'm going to run a disclaimer. I'm not speaking on behalf of the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah, even though I sit as a member of the Financial Regulatory Advisory Council of Experts at the CBN.
Yeah.
And that's the council that approves all the sukuk.
Right.
It's the highest body in the country that approves everything Islamic finance in Nigeria today.
Okay.
I sit on that panel, but I do not also speak on behalf of the federal government, and I'm not even speaking today on behalf of the CBN.
Okay.
The CBN has their own spokesperson who will address issues. But when it comes to embracing sukuk, what is the motivation on the part of the federal government?
Yes.
What I'm going to say here is that I think the federal government actually is just joining the rest of the world. From Malaysia to Manila, from London to Lusaka, Islamic finance has actually gained a lot of ground, across the world, basically. So the Nigerian government cannot actually, be staying back, doing nothing, basically. So I think that's why they embrace this. And as I said, it's an alternative finance model. In the UK, Islamic finance is not even called Islamic finance, as it were. They call it alternative finance.
Okay.
There's regulation within the United Kingdom, law made for this alternative finance. So this is what the world in Turkey is called participation finance.
Okay.
Because it allows people to participate together. We enter into joint venture, we put our monies together. There's a real economic kind of attachment connection to it. So this is actually what you have. And in Morocco, they also call it participation finance. In Nigeria, we call it non-interest finance for some reasons, which I'm not going to say here. But again, people now are getting used to using the word Islamic. So I think the motivation, from my own perspective, the motivation from the federal government is more of looking at alternative ways of funding budget deficits. They have a lot of projects. Money can never be enough. If you manage a government, you know that you have a lot of things to do, and you need to tap into alternative sources. And I think recently I watched the news where the Honorable Minister of Finance actually talked about, didn't you explore alternative sources of finance? They're talking about securitizing assets. This is the way to go. And I think this is something very important. So they are embracing alternative finance models. So it's not really about religion or that Nigeria is an Islamic country or so. So no, it's about looking at where the money is. Money doesn't have religion, so you just have to embrace it. No matter where it comes from, provided it's good. Yeah.
What about the human resource for non-interest or Islamic finance in the Nigerian educational system at the universities? I don't know. When I was in the school, there was nothing like that. But in the curriculum, are they now looking at non-interest banking and Islamic finance so that we can at least have it as part of the curriculum for either finance and banking students or finance students, so that we can have a pool of human resource for Islamic finance?
Sure.
How is the
the funny thing is that you said when you were in school there was no. You're talking about 40 years ago. When you were in school, that was back then. We're talking about recent things. And you're talking about 40 years ago. As an old man. Yeah. When you talk about the curriculum, yes, a lot has changed over the years. Even when I was in school, I'm not so old yet.
Yes.
When I was in school, we studied Islamic finance.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's in my final year, my 5th year as a law student, so it was part of the curriculum. So we do have a lot of business schools across the country. We have the International Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance at the Bayero University, Kano. Here, and they are doing a lot. They have postgraduate diploma programs. They have certificate programs. They conduct a lot of workshops, and they have degree programs and even master's programs. They supervise PhDs, and most of the professors train outside the country in Malaysia, in many other countries. So they are well equipped, and we do have also in many business schools and faculty of economics, Department of Economics. I know University of Ilorin and many, even in Unilag, you have aspects of Islamic finance as part of the curriculum. In ABU, the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, they recently introduced a PhD program in Islamic banking and finance. So there's that kind of momentum, nationally and globally when it comes to the human capacity development. I think it's extremely important. The human capital to run this is important. And what we see again is some of the global institutions like INSERF, the International University of Islamic Finance in Malaysia. There's a university dedicated for Islamic finance in Malaysia. That university actually has some online programs, and they are actually kind of rigorous programs, which people, a lot of people from Nigeria who cannot even fly out of the country, they can actually pay to go through the whole program, and they get certified. So most of those, and we do have the AOFI one, the Accounting and Auditing Organization of Islamic Financial Institutions based in Bahrain. They have the certificate program on Sharia and Islamic banking, and a lot of Nigerians are being certified, and with that they can actually work in banks as auditors. So we have a lot this kind of momentum, multidimensional momentum, when it comes to the curriculum in universities here within the country, and some of the programs that people can attend, online, from here, and they are globally recognized. So in fact, I know of some Nigerians who actually went through such programs and they just got jobs at Islamic Development Bank in Jeddah. Here now they were working in banks here. They went through those programs online and they got jobs. So that tells you that there's that kind of global network when it comes to Islamic finance or Islamic banking and finance sector.
Our distinguished listeners, we're still with Dr. Umar Oseni, an expert in Islamic finance. We're trying to drill him down so that he can give us, he's not going to give us everything, but he can give us some good knowledge about how this Islamic finance is working. I know some of us are driving through the various freeways and we are seeing sukuk, and all that. I believe that from his presentation here, today we're having an idea about what this sukuk thing is all about. It's not just about Islamic, it's not religious, it's just an alternate finance for government to finance its own project, and it's also cheaper for the government to do so. So the other question, it's really about the something you mentioned. You quoted some aspects of the Quran which has to do with Allah, God, because God is Allah. If you're a Christian, call it God. If you're a Muslim, say Allah. Allah has so many other names. Now, something you mentioned is about Allah, prohibiting is what they call interest on loans, that you give to people. Can you expand a little bit on that in terms of why that prohibition? Is there some historical background to that, and so that our listening audiences can learn one or two things about why? Because the major banks, like in the entire country, Nigeria, and even across the globe, it's all about interest. I put 1 million in the bank, I get 300,000 at the end of the year, things like this. Why is this prohibition?
Yeah, thank you. This is quite an interesting question when it comes to the reason behind the prohibition of usury or interest or riba, whatever name we're going to call it here. Now, when it comes to the prohibition, there are several reasons, but I'm just going to explain a few of them. Now, the most important one is injustice, economic injustice. Yes, I have my money, I have a 1 million naira, but again, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to work at all. I'm just going to go into this lending business. And this is what the banks are doing. Banks take your deposits and they make money from it and give you peanuts. This is what they do. And ultimately, some of these are not connected to the real economy. And that's why you see, I'm sorry to say, you see banks, managers and all these, they keep getting rich, at the expense of, the masses. This is what you have all the time. So when it comes to the historical dimension to this, injustice is the most important kind of, reason for prohibiting this. Because when you talk about injustice here, we're talking about a situation where somebody does nothing. He just lends money to others. And ultimately what you have is people actually go to borrow those monies and they pay back heavily. Some of them will keep paying back for the rest of their lives. Think of a simple mortgage. For those of you in the Western countries, in America, in Canada, in Europe, you know what it is. You buy a house, you're going to pay for the next 30 years. Some of you actually will end up not paying until you die. Basically, why do you have to do that? Why not come and explore a different option that will actually have a partnership kind of element, where you co-own the property itself with a bank? So the element of injustice, actually, it's there all the time. So when we talk about the prohibition of riba itself, actually, it's meant to reduce that element of injustice. And you do have some other verses that did not expressly mention interest or usury, but they talk about injustice. For instance, Quran 4 verse 25 or thereabout says, "O you who believe, do not eat up your property amongst yourself."
Yes.
In injustice. That's economic injustice.
Yes.
That verse is often interpreted in connection with the prohibition of riba, of interest, of usury. You shouldn't actually eating up, when God Almighty, Allah actually says eating the property, amongst yourself, means you are actually cheating the other person.
Yes.
You're trying to take advantage of the other person. The other person is weak. The person needs money.
Yes.
And because you have a lot, you just stipulate and say you're going to pay me back 200%.
Yes.
I know there are all these apps we have in Nigeria today where people pay up to 300% interest, basically. And they keep paying. And if they don't pay, there's this kind of thing they post online about you, that you have this, you have that, and they mess your whole life up. They send it to all your contacts. This is completely wrong. This is what Islam actually prohibits. And that's why Islamic finance is the way to go. It's what we should embrace. Economic injustice actually is something we should prohibit. Now, you have other kind of reasons, when you talk about promoting economic justice, then you also talk about circulation of wealth within the community.
Yes.
Then how do you circulate wealth? When the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, then ultimately it's going to be difficult for wealth to circulate.
Yes.
And that's why Islam actually adds some layers. Okay, you've got to pay zakat. You've got to pay zakat. If you earn more, you pay more, 2.5% of whatever you own.
Yeah.
So all these kind of mechanisms are meant to allow for circulation of wealth amongst the community. And again, God Almighty, Allah said it in the Quran that Kela yakuna dawlatan bain al-aghniyai minkum, that we want you to actually pay the zakat so that you don't have that circulation of wealth only amongst aghniya minkum, the oligarchy. The oligarchy. That is sort of hashar here. So wealth will not be just circulating among the wealth, and those are the lenders we're talking about. In our modern parlance, those are the conventional banks. I'm sorry to say this, but I have to just say it. Wealth, they get richer, while the poor get poorer, basically. So this is something Islam wants to avoid. Partner, share the profit. You benefit together. So that's another aspect when it comes to prohibition of riba. So we've talked about economic injustice. We've talked about the need for wealth to circulate among the people. Another point is financing the real economy. How do you ensure that wealth is connected to the real economy rather than just lending for consumption? You lend, you cannot pay, you keep coming back, and when you come back, you cannot pay. I take you. And that was actually the historical thing. If I give you money and you cannot pay back, you and your family, and you become my slaves, everybody. That's pure injustice.
Come and work for me.
You come and work for me, and you still be owing me, basically. So this is completely wrong, and this is what Islam came to demolish completely. The Prophet Muhammad SAW came, he did not really come with something new, as it were, because of course he was a grandson of Abraham, of Prophet Ibrahim. So it's the same message of oneness of God Almighty that Prophet Ibrahim, known as Abraham, actually brought at the very beginning. And this is what he came to do as a seal, the final of the prophet. And that was the last message. And that's why in Islam and in Islamic law, Sharu man qablana, that's the laws of the prophets that came before the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they are all applicable, subject to their compliance with the Quran. So all laws applicable to David, to Jesus Christ, all of them, Moses, they are all also applicable, provided they are actually in compliance with what you have in the Quran. So when it comes to economic exploitation, this is what Islam prohibits generally.
Economic exploitation part of it, it's very, very key, and it has been well explained now by Dr. Umar Oseni. And if you look at year to year, I mean, the Muslims just finished their fasting, and part of that is not just Zakatul Fitr, which you use food to pay for, or you give out food for that. But there's also the Zakat on wealth, which you just mentioned, and the 0.025 or 25%, 2.5% of your income, of your wealth. Can you imagine if somebody is a billionaire and you have that money to pay zakat on? That's a lot of money to spread around. And you can imagine how, if you distribute that wealth among several people, it can actually uplift them.
Absolutely.
Bring them out of poverty. And that is the essence, because we are not in this world to exploit one another. We all have to go back to God at some point to go and account. And it's not about this world. It's not about how much you've accumulated here on earth. It's about the good we do to one another, and then make sure that we stay worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala according to the dictate. So that's really it's really good to know. So I know you're not just the regulatory side of this financing business, Islamic finance business. You also want to be on the service provision side of it, and I know there's something going on in Auchi right now. I'm not trying to promote your business. We'll have another opportunity to sit down, and then we'll partner with you to do the promotion and all that. But you are here. So tell us about this project that is coming up or is already on ground in Auchi to help add value to this Islamic finance and to the benefit of our people here in Afema land.
Yeah, this is a good one, and we're planning to kind of bring, I won't say dividend of democracy as the politicians say. I'll say bringing the dividends of the things I've been personally doing globally, and I'm still actively involved in globally. I always tell people I did not drop from the sky. I came from a place, a city, a blessed city called the Aochi Sacred Kingdom here in Afema land. So, and being the Mufti of Aochi as well, I just felt it's important to kind of, have something unique for our people here. And I've been talking to a number of friends, setting up a bank, whether it's a microfinance bank or a full-fledged bank, it's not something easy. So you need to work with people, you need to partner with people. And we spoke with some like minds, and we came together, we pulled our resources together. It was quite difficult, but Alhamdulillah, praise be to God Almighty, we were able to kind of bring everything together. And we're trying to set up this unique financial institution here. Yeah, it's still going through the licensing process, and it's at the final stage with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Hopefully, we'll hear the good news soon. And the essence of establishing that unique non-interest microfinance bank in Nigeria, in Auchi here, basically is to help our people. It's going to be the first of its kind in southern Nigeria. I don't want to say South Nigeria because I don't have my data correctly, but I'll say South Nigeria, yes. And we feel it's going to help the people. It's not about setting up a bank to make money. Like I was telling someone yesterday, I was telling the management team of the bank yesterday, the money we've invested, I could have used it to buy a property in the US or in Canada, anywhere. And we know how properties actually kind of appreciate here. But I say it's not about making money, it's about adding value to our people. It's about bringing beneficial kind of projects to our people. And we have a lot of good news coming up very soon. And I do not want to kind of even mention the name of the bank yet because it has not been finally licensed. Hopefully in the next coming days, you're going to hear the good news. But there are a lot of projects and products to be rolled out. Even if you are that woman frying akara on the street in Ugele, or you're selling tomato in Ugele, and you want to benefit, we have products for you. And those products will really interest you. They are completely different from what the society is used to. You will be amazed by what we have for you. So watch out for whatever is coming. These projects are basically meant to empower our youth, our women, our men as well. So even if you're a young man there, you're looking for some financing, if you're sincere and you know what you're doing, this is the place to go. But again, I'll just say watch out. We are not going to tell you more until it finally here. And I'm sure the MD of the bank will be here personally once the doors are opened to kind of speak more about the products they're offering. But again, I'm speaking today as a shareholder and a founder. And I'll say let's watch out for what's going to happen in the next few days. It's a great thing and we're not only talking about Auchi, we're talking about the whole Afema land. Anything that comes to Auchi is not for Auchi alone. Auchi is open, it's for everybody. If you're living here in Auchi, whether you're originally from Auchi or not, you're part of us. That's the way we have defined Auchi. In fact, yesterday I was discussing with my dad, we're talking about the greater Auchi area. We should start talking about the GAA, the greater Auchi area, extended beyond the frontiers of the original Auchi. So the bank we're talking about here, which will be the first Islamic bank here, will actually kind of serve not only the core Auchi, it will serve the greater Auchi area. And hopefully, inshallah, we do have the plans to kind of expand beyond even Itakar, beyond Afema land as time goes on, inshallah.
Well, so you heard it from the horse's mouth, as they used to say. Well, Islamic banking and the flavor they want to bring to Auchi, it's not just for Muslims. You have the word Islam on it. It's not just for Muslims. Christians and others can actually patronize these products and services because why? Because they help you to grow your business. I mean, you don't have to pay all that interest. It's all about sharing your profits, on the business and all that. And then so it's something that is coming up, and something that you want to embrace. Like I said, here at Qalam Radio, we're going to partner with the company eventually, and help educate our people what this thing is all about, because some of our people inadvertently are doing what they do because of lack of knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really, really frowns at, that Islamic banking, as you have explained here. I mean, as interest banking, as you have explained. Some of us, like me personally, when I eventually start having the knowledge, all my savings account, I close them down. I just close them completely. I know the other one is where I was getting my salaries and all that. I had to keep it open. Yeah, and they were collecting my small interest. What was interesting, like we were saying offline, each time I use Jai's Bank, to make payment transfer, I don't see those small money, 200 naira being taken away from my account. I don't know how they get that money back, somehow, but I don't see those ones. But once I use some of these other banks, I'll just be hearing a lot, 400 naira gone, 200 naira gone. For what now? Sometimes 15 naira.
That's quite interesting because even for Jai's Bank and others, basically, one thing we have noticed that many of their depositors and even shareholders are non-Muslims.
That's the point.
Many. I mean, this is in the annual report. Anybody can go and search for what I'm talking about. They have a huge percentage who are non-Muslims.
Exactly.
Because people believe that, okay, this is fairer, is just, basic. And that's the economic justice we're talking about. And that's why I started off with the issue of a faith-based kind of model, which actually has similar principles in Judaism, in Christianity as well.
I went to make inquiry at Islamic Development Bank in Abuja, and I was shocked when I got in there. Initially, they told me upfront that if I don't have a business that is up to $20 million, then I'm a non-starter. That's where they start from. I said, okay, fine. But I now said, so who are the people coming and what kind of projects are they financing? And what they told me was very revealing. And they told us that even when they brought this thing into the country because Nigeria, signs off on OIC and all that part of. But the people that is a majority of people that come to collect are the Igbos.
Yes, we have a number of governments from Imo and some, in the eastern part who have benefited from the, funding from the Islamic Development Bank. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, they say they are the most people that I was like,
because they're very entrepreneurial.
I even came to ADF. I told ADF, I said, let us do a project, put it together, $20 million and let's roll. And we have been struggling with that. So. Well, we have two projects that we want to leave behind as president of the ADF. We have the Tech Hub, which we believe is going to benefit our youths. And then, of course, the other one, which is the logistics, ADF logistics, that we feel should clear some of all these bikes from the area. I know since you came, you can see what we are going through here with bikes. See your vehicle anyhow, and we need to check these things. So
it's true.
I hope the team in Dubai, they're doing something to bring out the business plan so that
I mean it's a very good thing, and I think ADF has a lot to do. Basically, Auchi is very close to our heart. Even though some of us do not live in this country, I mean we are kind of connected to this blessed kingdom, and it's really important to look at some of these projects, partner, with people. One thing I've learned from my experience working in different countries and living in different countries, I've lived in of course Nigeria where I was born. I've lived in Malaysia, I've lived in Canada, I've lived in the US, now I live in Istanbul in Turkey. I've gone to most part of the world. Basically, one thing I've learned is if you really want to go far, you should partner. You partner. I mean, you just have to partner. In most cases, people cannot do. You may not be able to do some of these big projects on your own, and that's why I encourage ADF to kind of look into these as well.
Okay.
These two projects are important. I recently read somewhere that there's a project where you can kind of book a car together in a group.
Yeah.
Right here. I just got to know about that. I read it on one of the platforms. So
they came here.
Yeah. So I think it's important to kind of look at how to partner with anybody who is ready to partner, who is ready to do things to solve problems. My focus should always be on the problem itself. Whosoever does is the like we say in our local parlance in Awachi here, basically, when there's a snake in the room, you don't care whether it's a woman or man. You don't care.
So thank you so very much. Again, our distinguished listeners, you'll be listening to Dr. Umar Oseni, an erudite financial Islamic financial guru. We are really, really, really privileged to have him here in our studio. Each time he comes back to Nigeria, they will bring him here, to come and speak to us because it's a very, very interesting topic, something that has to do with our pockets and all that. During the what do you call it, during the fasting period, we wanted to bring him here to drill him down on topics on Islam, but we'll do that off. Wherever he is, we'll connect him.
Sure.
We'll connect him to come and talk to us within his wealth of knowledge. So we are pretty much happy to have you here, and
Sure.
we look forward to bring you back here again next time
Thank you very
here
much.
on Qalam Radio. Mariam, over to you. I think we are done here.
Oh, yes, we are done here
Yeah.
because it was a really, really insightful conversation. We're saying a very big thank you that you came all the way to the studio to educate the people of Auchi and to even educate us right here on Color Radio because I really did learn a lot from whatever it is you were saying. So, is there any final thing you'd like to say to the people of AFEMA about anything?
Well, thank you very much. People of Afema are more. I don't know. We've been speaking English.
Yes.
Perhaps we're gonna have a session where we're gonna speak
Auchi.
Auchi completely.
Yes.
Yeah, no English. And
Yes.
Mariam will be the anchor. So
Yeah.
now, when it comes to my final kind of words here, I'd just like to say that when it comes to Afema land, it's a blessed land, and we should all kind of ensure that whether it's our economic activities, whether it's security, I know we have some security challenges at the moment, whether it's the judicial aspect, whether it's the political aspect as well, let's ensure that we are our brother's keeper.
Yes.
Let's live together. And that golden rule of live and let live is extremely important in everything we do.
Yes.
And we should always ensure that the public interest actually trumps any private interest. And this is something we encourage everybody to do. Let's come together to always think of how to develop our home, how to develop our hometown, how to develop Afema land is extremely important. And as I said, again, our discussion today basically, relates to the economic aspect, the financial aspect. So, when you do business, as they say in Nigeria, shine your eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, shine your eyes so that you are not deceived.
Yes.
There are a lot of scams out there. I've seen a lot of, our youths, who said they have invested their monies in some apps and whatever. I can tell you, I'm a financial expert known globally. I've never invested in any app. Not even for once.
Yes.
So just for you to know that the kind of risk level, our risk appetite. So if you talk about investment, people like us should have been doing all this, but no, we don't do them. So don't ever be deceived if you're a youth listening to us from anywhere that you have some money you want to invest because they promised you 200% profit rate within 2 weeks, and you saw that they paid somebody and comments are coming. Everything is pure setup, my brothers and sisters. Run, don't do it.
Yes.
It's better you keep your money. In fact, in this modern era, we say cash is king.
Yes.
If you don't want to lose your money, just keep it.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I hope to reconnect with you again soon.
Yes. You're going to connect with us again very, very soon. So, on that note, we'll close it. We'll draw the curtain from here until it comes again your way. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
By the time you learn to love, you'll have to learn to lose. So